The morning sun cast long shadows across my family's ranch, glinting off the weathered cedar fence that had stood for over 60 years. I was sipping coffee on the porch when I heard the sharp click of designer heels on gravel. A woman stood at my gate, her perfectly manicured finger jabbing toward the fence like it was a personal affront. Her platinum blonde bob swayed with each furious step, her face a mask of righteous indignation. "You have 60 seconds to agree to tear down that eyesore," she snapped, "or I'm calling the police." Her name was Victoria Hensley, self-appointed guardian of Meadowview Estates, and she radiated the kind of arrogance that comes from never being challenged. What she didn't know was that in 12 minutes, when those patrol cars arrived, her smug certainty would crumble into the most humiliating moment of her privileged life. There was something about me, Samuel Hawthorne, fourth-generation owner of Hawthorne Ranch, that Victoria had never bothered to learn. Something that would turn her power trip into a career-ending catastrophe the entire town would talk about for months. As she fumbled with her phone, already dialing 911, the sunlight caught the metallic gleam of something in my back pocket. This wasn't just a neighborly spat over property lines. It was about to become a masterclass in what happens when someone with a sliver of authority picks a fight with the wrong person. My name is Samuel Hawthorne, and the Hawthorne Ranch isn't just 40 acres of Texas Hill Country, it's sacred ground. For 4 generations, my family has poured sweat and soul into this land, learning the meaning of duty, integrity, and service. My great-grandfather, Amos, started a tradition in 1923 that my grandfather Caleb, my father, and now I have carried forward, a commitment to protecting this community in ways that run deeper than most could imagine. The fence Victoria was so eager to demolish wasn't just wood and nails. Every oak rail was hand-picked by my grandfather during the summer I turned 12, when my hands were too small for the tools, but my heart was eager to learn. Under the blistering Texas sun, Caleb taught me more than carpentry. "This fence isn't just about keeping cattle in," he'd say, wiping sweat from his brow. "It's about standing your ground against folks who think money and titles give them the right to push others around." His words, cryptic then, now echoed as I watched Victoria pace, her voice sharp as she demanded compliance. Victoria had moved into Meadowview Estates 6 months earlier with her corporate lawyer husband, Richard, and their twin sons, who attended an elite private school 40 miles away. From the moment her moving trucks left, she'd crowned herself the neighborhood's enforcer, wielding laminated HOA rules like a scepter. She wasn't your typical overzealous HOA president. Her confidence hinted at connections beyond petty neighborhood politics. At block parties, she'd casually mention friends in high places or her ability to get priority response from law enforcement. Her tone suggested the police were her personal task force, ready to jump at her call. That Tuesday morning at 7:30 a.m., she marched onto my property, designer purse swinging, phone in hand, radiating the certainty of someone holding an unbeatable hand. "Mr. Hawthorne," she declared, her voice dripping with disdain, "this fence violates HOA aesthetic standards, subsection 4.7b. It's dragging down property values. You have 60 seconds to comply, or I'm calling the authorities." Before I could respond, she was already on the phone, her fingers moving with practiced ease. "This is Victoria Hensley from Meadowview Estates," she announced, her tone reserved for true emergencies. "I need officers dispatched to 1247, Ranch Road immediately. We have a non-compliant property owner refusing to follow legally binding HOA regulations and becoming belligerent." Then, chillingly, she added, "Send someone with real authority, not some rookie who'll be intimidated by a landowner who thinks he's above the rules." Her familiarity with police protocol was unnerving. How did a woman who'd lived here less than 7 months know so much about law enforcement procedures? Across the hedge, my neighbor, Eleanor Watts, was tending her prize roses. Eleanor, the neighborhood's unofficial historian, had known my grandfather and understood the Hawthorne legacy better than most. As Victoria ranted about property values and legal consequences, I caught Eleanor's eye. Her expression wasn't shock or worry, it was anticipation, tinged with amusement. She gave a subtle nod and mouthed, "She has no idea who you are." Then, oddly, she pulled out her phone and began typing furiously, glancing between me and the distant wail of approaching sirens. Who was she texting? And why did she look like she was alerting someone to a spectacle they couldn't miss? The sirens grew louder, each wail carrying a weight Victoria couldn't fathom. Those vehicles were under my command, manned by officers who reported to me daily. Two patrol cars arrived within 8 minutes, impressive for rural Meadowview County. Deputy Lucas Kane, a young officer eager to prove himself, stepped out of the first. Sergeant Olivia Brandt, a 15-year veteran with unmatched instincts, emerged from the second. Victoria rushed to meet them, waving her HOA papers like badges of authority. "Officers, thank goodness you're here," she gushed. "This man is defying legally binding neighborhood standards, and his non-compliance is ruining our community's value. You need to make him understand these rules aren't optional." What Victoria didn't notice was Deputy Kane's instinctive move to tip his hat when he saw me on the porch, a gesture of respect drilled into every officer in our department. Sergeant Brandt took a step back, whispering urgently to Kane, her eyes registering the gravity of the situation. Both recognized me instantly, as they should will work together every day. The question was whether they'd keep my identity under wraps or let slip the truth that would unravel Victoria's confidence. The irony was almost too much. Victoria, who bragged about her law enforcement connections, had no idea she was trying to intimidate the man who ran the very department she thought she could summon like a private security force. Deputy Kane, ever professional, addressed her calmly. "Ma'am, before we take any action, we need to verify the legal basis for your complaint and ensure all parties understand their rights." Victoria's smile faltered, but her entitlement held firm. "I'm the duly elected HOA president," she snapped, "and I have documentation proving my authority." Sergeant Brandt checked her tablet with the thoroughness of experience. "Ma'am, county records show this property predates your HOA by 47 years. The Hawthorne family has owned this land since 1963, granting them grandfather rights that supersede your regulations." Victoria's voice hit a pitch that startled nearby birds. "That's impossible. I have official documents proving this property is under HOA jurisdiction." "Your database is wrong," Deputy Kane interjected patiently. "You'll need to present those documents to the proper authorities, ma'am. Right now, our records show you're on private property, making demands without legal standing." Victoria's confidence cracked, fear creeping into her eyes. This wasn't the instant compliance she'd expected. Desperate, she played what she thought was her trump card. "Officers," she said, her voice smug, "I have a very close relationship with Sheriff Hawthorne. We dine together every Sunday at the country club. He'll be furious when he hears how his department is treating a law-abiding citizen trying to uphold community standards." The silence was deafening. Deputy Kane's eyes widened with barely contained amusement. Sergeant Brandt stifled a laugh. I stood on the porch, letting her words hang like a lit fuse. The sunlight caught the metal in my back pocket as I reached for my leather wallet, the one I'd carried for 12 years. With deliberate slowness, I let it fall open, the gold sheriff's badge catching the light. "Ma'am," I said calmly, "there seems to be some confusion about who you claim to dine with every Sunday." Victoria's eyes locked on the badge, her brain struggling to reconcile the words. Sheriff Samuel Hawthorne, Meadowview County. The color drained from her face, her makeup unable to hide her shock. The woman who'd threatened to have me arrested for defying her now realized she'd been screaming at the very sheriff she claimed as her ally. Deputy Kane couldn't hold back a grin. "Good morning, Sheriff Hawthorne. Everything under control?" Sergeant Brandt stepped forward, her tone professional but pointed. "Sheriff, we responded to a complaint about property violations. Is this a civil dispute, or is there something more serious we need to address?" Victoria's mouth opened and closed, no sound escaping as her world collapsed. Her hands shook, scattering her laminated papers across the gravel. But instead of apologizing, she doubled down, her voice shrill with desperation. "This is corruption," she screamed, pointing at me. "You're abusing your power to intimidate citizens trying to maintain standards." "I'll report this to whom?" I asked, my tone calm but firm. "The county commissioners who elected me? The state attorney general? Or maybe the local paper that endorsed my re-election?" Her meltdown wasn't just a personal failure, it was being broadcast. Eleanor hadn't just texted someone. She'd been live-streaming the entire confrontation to the neighborhood's Facebook group. By the time Victoria's accusations grew wilder, 47 residents were watching their HOA tyrant try to have their sheriff arrested. Comments flooded in. "Is that Sheriff Hawthorne? She called the cops on the cop? How did she not know who he was?" The video went viral, screenshots spreading across group chats and HOA horror story forums. Within 24 hours, a petition to remove Victoria as HOA president gathered 312 signatures in a community of 89 homes. People were signing multiple times to make a point. Neighbors who'd endured her harassment shared stories of fake fines and threats. Mrs. Lopez had paid monthly violation fees that didn't exist. The Carter family faced legal threats over a garden that broke no rules. 3 households received official-looking demands for compliance with invented standards. Victoria hadn't just been overzealous, been running an extortion scheme, collecting $12,000 in fake fees from intimidated residents. The county attorney's office launched an investigation. A search of Victoria's home uncovered plans for a massive commercial development that would have turned our rural community into a shopping complex. My ranch, with its unsightly fence, was the cornerstone of a project worth millions. Her harassment, fake fines, and claims of authority were all part of a scheme to pressure residents into selling cheap to out-of-state developers. Her connections weren't with law enforcement, but with developers promising her commissions. Victoria pleaded guilty to fraud, extortion, and impersonating an official. Her sentence: 18 months of community service, cleaning public spaces in an orange vest. For months, I'd sip coffee on my porch, watching her pick up trash near the fence she'd tried to destroy. The development collapsed, and our community remained untouched. Eleanor's video, viewed by over 50,000, became a cautionary tale. The fence still stands, a reminder of my grandfather's words: the badge doesn't make the man. The man makes the badge worthy. Victoria's downfall sparked a county-wide reckoning, with 7 HOAs investigating their own leaders. Her family left in disgrace, their home sold at a loss, their reputation in ruins. And I just keep tending the ranch, knowing some fights are worth winning.